deserve a lot of credit for helping civic engagement in this town and making it a pure New England democracy. We appreciate everybody who helped themselves out. One question that came up last night was whether or not there are actual state highways in the town of Stow. I've got an answer from Jesse Stedman saying that the state retains control over the bridges on 117 over Elizabeth Brook and over 62 on Gleasondale Road. I don't know if that's affirmed yet, but we'll continue to keep the town advised about what it owns and what it doesn't.
Well, we'll have a definitive answer for you on that.
Before the Complete Streets Committee, if it is inaugurated tonight, first meets, I hope. Couple of notice items. First off, there'll be, of course, the public hearing by the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen next Wednesday night at the Community Center. This regards the settlement between the Collins Foundation and the town. And anyone who has questions about that should attend next Wednesday night. The DCHD has gotten a couple of applications for 40Bs, and they've asked for public comment on both of those. Of course, one is Plantation Apartments 2, the other is the Pine Point Habitat for Humanity / Sudbury Road project. The deadline for comments, and anyone can make a public comment, is July 28, 2017, and I've received notice that the DCHD is scheduled a site visit for the Pine Point Road, Sudbury Road proposed project on July 25th at 10 a.m. So I imagine that is open to the public. Now, also the Facilities Advisory Committee is for the Neshoba Regional School District, has got applications pending from members of the community, the Tri-Town community. Those applications will be due August 15th. 16th, thank you. And then I've been thinking, now that we have a chance to breathe, it's been a very busy summer, and I appreciate our administrative assistants, both of their hard work and the town administrator's hard work through what usually is a kind of a slack period. But I appreciate their work. But now I think it's time for the board to start thinking about priorities and policies, ideas that they might have. I'm not calling on anyone for any specific proposals, but at any specific time. But by the end of the summer, I have a couple of ideas about increasing civic engagement and perhaps talking about strategy on affordable housing proposals. I would like to set some time up on our agendas when it's convenient to my colleagues and the town administrator to discuss those kind of proactive thinking things through. And finally, I'm sure the board and the entire town wishes former Newton Mayor Seti Warren a speedy recovery. He was injured on a bike on Sunday, reportedly on a pothole here in Stow, but we hope he gets back to training for the Pan Mass schedule, and if he's listening, we suggest he gets in touch with Jim Salvi, who's also training for that same challenge, and maybe they can talk about safe routes through Stow. That brings us to correspondence. Anything that my colleagues have seen in the correspondence file that they'd like to bring to our attention? Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Then that brings us to the three items that I think are probably brought most of us here tonight. First is a discussion vote on appointment of a police prosecutor, although buried within here is a certificate of appreciation. Maybe it's better we take that first, so then we can start signing it while we deal with the other matters. And as always, I ask my colleague, Mr. Ryan, to perhaps give us the background on this.
Well, as I think all of my colleagues on the board know, our police prosecutor is planning on retiring.
Gary Murphy.
Gary Murphy's been with us for 32 years. He's been a prosecutor for many, many years. He's also been the firearms instructor for the department, and he's just an all-around good guy. And you know, one of the nice things too is we'll be talking about him kind of in three ways tonight. One is this certificate of appreciation. And after he retires, we're still going to be graced with his presence as a special police officer, so people will still see him around at times. That assumes that we all vote in favor of that, but I suspect we will. And, you know, he's, you know, so, and he's also been working to come up with his replacement as prosecutor, so it's kind of sad to see him go, but I'm wishing him a lot of fun in his retirement. With that, shall I read the certificate of or proclamation of tribute
Thank you.
to Gary Murphy? On this, the 11th day of July 2017, the Stow Board of Selectmen hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Police Officer Gary Murphy for his 32 years of service in the Stow Police Department. Officer Gary Murphy has been a member of the Stow Police Department since 1985. During that time, he served the town with pride and dedication. The last 18 years, he has served as the department's court prosecutor and firearms instructor. Throughout his career, Gary was instrumental as an advocate for veteran services in our communities. Gary was always the first one to volunteer to serve at a veteran's wake or funeral, and Gary was well liked and respected by his colleagues and took great pride in his work at the Concord District Court. His great sense of humor and camaraderie will be missed by all. On behalf of the entire community and the Board of Selectmen and the Stow Police Department, we want to thank you for your loyal service to the town of Stow. Best wishes for a safe and happy retirement.
Does Mr. Murphy want to step forward? Or Officer Murphy, excuse me. When we sign this, does anybody here want to take some photographs? Well, first we need a motion. Mr. Hawks, would you oblige us?
I move to approve and sign the certificate of appreciation for Officer Gary Murphy, who read this date, who is retiring from the Stow Police Department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
See, aren't you glad
unanimous.
it wasn't a 2-2 vote?
He's carrying a weapon.
Thank you, Officer Murphy. If his family's here, do you want to have some pictures taken with him when he gets the certificate?
Why not?
Least we can do after 35 years.
Can we get in it?
32.
32, sorry.
But by the time he's done as a special, he'll be 35.
That's good.
Where are we going?
Waterville.
Here you go. Mr. Ryan, why don't you present this?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your service.
Now, we have to go about replacing you.
And keeping you at the same time.
Mr. Ryan, do you have some thoughts on that as well?
Well, I think I'll let the chief speak to that. I think you've all read his recommendation, but basically this is kind of a union position that was open to anyone who put forward for it, and he had a couple candidates and selected the best one for it. I
Chief?
believe that that's the case.
Could you come up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Board, thank you, Mr. Wrigley. Is it okay if I stand? To sum it up quickly, Gary Murphy worked for the town of Stow 32 years. I don't want to repeat everyone. Last 18 years as prosecutor and Department firearms instructor. I got on in 1984 quickly. Gary got on a year later. For 32 years I worked with him. He was always a good partner. The companionship, the camaraderie was fantastic, but most importantly, we began as friends and we're going to finish as friends. In 32 years, I don't think we had more than 2 or 3 arguments, and that was usually because Gary was late for work. I want to just take a second to thank him and honor him. He had a great career, and he's going to be missed. His sense of humor is going to be missed, and we went through a lot together, and I wish you the best in your retirement, Gary. Congratulations. So to replace Gary, I posted the job internally. It is a union position, as Selectman Ryan said. We posted it. We let it sit for about a month. We got 3 applicants. All 3 applicants were fantastic employees, good police officers. I took the input from Lieutenant Marino, Sergeant Darren Thrain, Sergeant Mike Solis, and importantly, Gary Murphy. And I asked them all for their input, who they thought would be a good fit down the court. And importantly to me is Gary's been there 18 years, and we have some attorneys on the board, and you know how the court system is. It's you have to have the special person to work down the court. You have to have the right fit. You have to deal with probation, the clerk's office, the DA's office, the attorneys, the judges, and all 3 supervisors and the prosecutor all reported back unanimously, and they chose Robert Nelson. Bob has been with the department for 6 years. He was previously with the Southborough Police Department and the Hopedale Police Department. Bob's been a great asset to the town of Stow. He's a good guy. He's a little quiet, and he's probably ready to get sick to his stomach. He looks like he's green. He doesn't like more than 3 or 4 people around him. But I think he does a great job in his police reports and his investigations. He's very thorough. He's organized. He writes his reports well. He's well-spoken. I agree with the supervisors, Gary, and I made my recommendation to Mr. Wrigley and the board. I think Bob Nelson's a good fit to go down there and take over for Gary.
Would Officer Nelson like to come forward?
Does he have a choice?
Probably.
Thank you very much for stepping up. Any questions from my colleagues? Comments?
Well, ever since since I've been working with Chief Bosworth and Mr. Wrigley on all of the police officer appointments and hires, I've just been very impressed with the whole process that has been put in place. And I believe that Chief Bosworth and his department has done a fine job, and I'm very happy to accept their recommendation.
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman?
If there's no further discussion, please.
Mr. Chairman, on the recommendation of Police Chief William Bosworth, I move that the board appoint Robert Nelson as prosecutor for the Stow Police Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? That's unanimous. Congratulations, Officer Nelson. Don't take any grief from criminal defense attorneys, okay? Congratulations. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Now that brings us full circle. I think we have some unfinished business yet with Officer Murphy.
Mr. Chairman, or do you want to present anything to say on this, or just on the motion?
Well, I was just going to say that it's a wonderful thing to kind of lead them out and then lead them back in. You know, it's always nice to keep the experience on the force.
I'm just happy you came back.
Yeah. You know, but the thing is, Chief Bosworth just won't be able to give him as hard a time for being late now. He can say, well, I'm not going to do the detail then. But he wouldn't.
It's his problem for keeping time.
I think we're ready now, Mr. Hawks.
Mr. Chairman, on the recommendation of Police Chief William Bosworth, I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint retiring, but not shy, Police Prosecutor Gary Murphy as a special police officer, effective upon his retirement on July 22nd, 2017, for a term ending June 30, 2018, and subject to annual reappointment thereafter.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much for staying on.
Thank you
You're
very
getting a lot of
much.
exercise going back and forth.
Can I leave now?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you're all set, everyone's all set.
And if I could just add, Gary his last day is July 22nd, and then he's going to stay on. He's offered to stay on for a few weeks, or as long as it takes to help Bob Nelson get acclimated to the court, and he's going to stay on as one of our firearms instructors. So that's great for the department. So it's a win-win, and works out good for everyone.
Well, thank you. And it's nice to see such camaraderie and support for your fellow officers.
That's why I didn't want to sit down. I didn't want the wall behind me. I'll keep my eye on it.
Oh, we don't need them any longer, do we?
No, we
Well, unless you want them to...
We have one more appointment of a special police officer.
Oh, yes, that's right, we do. Thank you. Please, I
motion?
apologize. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Police Dispatcher Brandon Murphy as a special police officer effective immediately for a term ending June 30, 2018, and subject to annual reappointment thereafter.
Second.
We have a motion second. All-
Okay, can I just
Certainly.
ask Chief Bosworth to say a couple words
Yeah,
about it?
sure. To sum it up quickly, Brandon's a full-time dispatcher, public safety dispatcher for police and fire. He's been with us approximately 7 months. He's been a good fit. He responds real well to pressure. He's a quiet, polite young man. He's got his bachelor's degree from UMass Dartmouth. I think his career ambition is to be a police officer eventually. He's already done the part-time reserve intermittent police academy at a previous employer. He's worked as a special down in Wellfleet in the Cape, and he asked a couple of weeks ago to be put on, and past practice, we've allowed the full-time dispatchers to be special police officers. It gives them a chance to help us out when needed, and it gives them some experience. Eventually, they get signed off and they can work patrol shifts after the full-timers, after we go through the list. They also occasionally can help in emergencies, disasters, when we're shorthanded, or an occasional construction detail. So we're just following what we've done the last several years. So he will be the last full-time dispatcher that's also a special. The other 3 are also special police officers, and they all do a good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief. I think we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much,
And
Chief, and
is-
why don't you come on forward and...
He's actually on
Thank God there's somebody working.
Mr. Chairman, I believe he's actually watching us on TV though, so I think he got the...
Congratulations. That's all then, unless we have you and Lieutenant Marino, but,
Okay.
They'll stick around for their 2
oh, they need that too?
Look.
Well then, let's go to the item 6 on our agenda, the police chief and police lieutenant contracts. And I see that you've come with your support. Would you both? Yes, I said I'm looking for you. Why don't you come on up?
You thought it was Gary, didn't you?
No, I was looking for you. That's all.
I'm not retiring yet.
These eyes aren't that good anymore.
It goes-
Now, I will call upon the town administrator to introduce us to this topic.
Well, we all know one another. The fact is that this is a renewal for both of them. We have 3-year contracts for them. And I want to say that I strongly support both professionally and personally. The chief and Lieutenant Marino are what you expect to get as professionals. And for me, it's a quasi-military organization, and being a veteran, acting, looking, and being a professional is what this is all about. And you can see from all the rest of it, the Stow Police Department presents itself professionally and carries itself professionally, and it starts at the top with both of these guys. I've been here 25 years. I've known them since the beginning, and I'm proud and pleased to be able to recommend to the board renewal of their 3-year contracts. So if you would support that and make a recommendation so we can accomplish that, I'd be pleased with it.
Mr. Ryan, would you like anything to add? Anything?
I agree with everything Mr. Wrigley has said, and all my interactions with Chief Bosworth and Lieutenant Marino have been very professional. Whenever I've asked them for anything, they get back to me immediately, and I'm very happy that they're going to be around for another 3 years.
I can't add anything more to that. Anyone else?
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the contract for Chief William Bosworth and to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Maybe I should have offered you a chance to say something, Chief.
Thank you all for your support. It's been a nice 6.5-year run. This will be my last, most likely my last contract, so I appreciate the support. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you for your
And I'm
service.
glad you're sticking around for another few, because I know we had
Yeah,
conversations.
no, I'm
that-
gonna be here. I've got 2 more to go.
Might not be all 3 for me, Tom.
Oh, no. You've signed up for 3 now.
But in case you missed it...
We've got it on tape.
In case you missed it, that was unanimous. I'll need another motion, Mr. Hawks.
Chairman, I move to approve the contract for Police Lieutenant Ralph Marino and to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract.
Second.
A motion and second. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Town Administrator?
No, I think we've said it all.
No?
I think I said that, gave it, I thought we were voting on both of them before.
No, it was ahead of
Separate
time.
motions.
Separate motion.
Same thing. Both very professional, and I'm very happy to have them both.
Rusty, I've known you since high school. Anything you'd like to add?
I'd like to go back to high school. No, I appreciate the board.
And beat me up again?
Oh, no. I'd just like to thank the board and Mr. Rickey for the support, and Chief as well.
Thank you very much. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again, both of you, for your service to the town. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. Good.
Thanks, Tom.
Now that we've got that out of the way, would you mind sticking
Thank you.
Very
around
much.
for a moment for the next item? It has public safety implications.
Sure.
I appreciate, thank you. Won't take long, I don't think.
That's perhaps a prudent suggestion, Mr. Hawks, because the next item is a discussion and vote on the special liquor license permit for the Schultz family benefit. Is there Mr. Conley here?
Yes.
Please come up, introduce yourself.
Bill Conley, 109 Barton Road.
Brian Burke.
Tom Ryan?
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Don Hawks.
Thank you very much for offering to do this. We appreciate anything that can be done for the Schultz family. We mention them frequently in our comments and reports.
Yep.
And would like to do anything that we can to help. There are just certain steps and procedures that have to be followed, and we appreciate you working with our administrative assistant and our town administrator to get through those hurdles.
Okay. So most of you are familiar with the situation, but I'll hand these out just in case you're not.
Never get too much publicity
No.
for this cause.
And why don't
If you
you
just hang these up around town when you're done with them, that'd be great.
I'll put it on my refrigerator. Would you like to tell the town about it?
So basically what we're trying to do is we're proposing an RA Danger Day at Pine Bluff, and just kind of a day to get the community together and raise some funds, which we're doing through the Greg Hill Foundation. So him and his, the Battle Road Brewery are supporting it. And most of the donations will go directly through the Greg Hill Foundation and then on to the Schultz family.
And it's a date for that?
It's August 19th. And it'll
Saturday.
be 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. We'll have 4 bands lined up. We'll have barbecue. We'll be selling tickets. Probably go on sale at the end of this week. I wanted to get through this first before I committed to selling tickets. But we should be doing that in a couple of days.
And I thank you for working with our administrative assistants on some of the
Yep,
insurance
she's been
matters.
very helpful.
She always is. Do you have any questions for us, or anything you'd like to say further before we take action? I think it's on a special liquor license application.
Yes, I'm not sure if you wanted to see the preliminary layout that we come up with for the beach.
That's very
It's just-
commendable.
It was kind of a quick sketch, but we wanted to get an idea of how things were going to be done.
Has the chief got one of these? Has he?
Otherwise.
Thank you. For those at home,
So I've been working with Bill, and one of the main concerns from a safety perspective with the police are parking issues. As you can imagine, we have maybe about 120 spots at Pine Bluff, so that's not gonna cut it. And so we've spoken to Honey Pot, and they've offered a minimum 400 parking spots down at Honey Pot Orchards. I believe it's up to 600 if we need it. And we have we'll have 2 coach shuttles that have been donated to shuttle people probably about a mile from Honey Pot to the main entrance of Pine Bluff. So we'll fill the 100 or so parking spots first, and then we'll be shuttling people back and forth down to Honey Pot.
That's great. Anything else you need to tell us about the event or the application for the license?
So I've also been talking to Joe Landry, the fire chief, and he had a few concerns. One of our original intention was to do a bonfire on the beach, and he didn't have critical concerns, but logistically, him and I decided that we could probably just skip that, and as far as the liability and the danger to anyone, it would just be easier to skip that part of it. And it was, the event's gonna end at 7 o'clock anyway, so to have a bonfire at 6 to 7 just didn't really make sense.
Good point.
But he's offered up an ambulance and 2 EMTs for that day. And we'll also be getting, we'll be paying for a detail from the police department. So we'll have 1 detail officer.
Chief, I'm sorry. Have you reviewed these plans? Do you have anything to add?
Fire chief and I both spoke to Mr. Conley. We addressed concerns to him, and he responded favorably back and came to a happy conclusion. They've got an estimated crowd of 600 or 700 people, 5 bands, alcohol, etc. So we thought there should be some police and fire presence, obviously, with a crowd like that and the alcohol. So we're going to have a police officer there. There's a police detail with a cruiser. It'll be equipped with an AED, defibrillator, medical equipment, EpiPen, etc. Everything they need. And the fire department also have a couple of firefighter EMTs there. So we should be in good hand in case there's any medical emergency down there that day. And the police officer will help monitor the alcohol sale and consumption. And just keep an eye on it. And I think it's a great event, and I don't anticipate any problems. And I wish them the best of luck.
Thank you, Chief, for your report, and you're working with them. Now I'll open it up to my colleagues on the board.
Just, Chief, will you be placing no parking signs down along some areas of that
We haven't got
road?
to that point yet, but we'll probably end up posting Sudbury Road, because it's narrow and windy there, so we'll probably go out a day or 2 before, similar to what we do during apple season, where we post that area on Sudbury Road. I'm sure there'll be plenty of advertising for people who park at Honey Pot.
And I suppose one question for Mr. Conley is, the numbers kind of in flux, obviously you're hoping to get, more ticket sales is better. Do you have any plans on capping it at any particular number?
Well, we've been talking to Battle Road, and they'll be handling the barbecue portion of it, and they cannot do more than, say, 800 or 900 people. So that is pretty much the cap.
I suppose one thing I'd ask, and I'm sure you'll be keeping in touch with Chief Bosworth and Chief Landry, but, consider capping it at some point, whether it's 750 or 800, and as it gets up there, as you know, the numbers of people that are going to be there, make sure that they're aware of it, so that
The police and fire are aware of the number of people that are actually there on the day? Or the tickets sold?
The tickets sold,
Okay, yeah.
so that you've got some, they've got some idea, because, if it's I think the numbers I've seen to begin with, it was 500 to 750. Well, if it starts getting up over 750, Chief Bosworth may request an additional detail officer because,
Right.
so and it all depends on how many people you may have that are, you're expecting to walk in.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think that, if you start pushing 1,000 people, we usually have a couple detail officers just for, the turkey trot. And so if it starts to push towards 1,000, I think, there may be some concern about additional details, but if you're getting up there, you're gonna be happy guys anyway.
Right. I think that's the advantage of having a longer event at 12 to 7. I don't think anyone's really going to show up for 7 hours and stay. They'll stay for 2 hours or 3 hours, so hopefully it'll be spread out. And we'll be having music through the whole time, so, they'll come and see their favorite band, hopefully.
And, make sure that the police department also has your cell phone to be able to.
Well, I'll be there the
contact
entire
you.
time, and I'll have my cell phone number.
Any questions or comments from anyone else? Mr. Hawks?
Chief
Yes.
Bosworth had a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
An additional public safety element of this is we anticipated a lot of the Lake Boone residents commuting to this via the lake, via a boat. So in response to that, we're going to have a Lake Boone patrol from noon to 8 o'clock on that day, monitoring the lake boat traffic from this event.
Are you going to use tickets or
We're gonna have
bracelets?
wristbands.
Ah, okay.
So we'll be IDing, because there'll be different colored wristbands, whether they're of age to drink or not. And all the vendors will have their bartenders will be certified safe serve. So they'll be kind of in charge of that part of it.
Sorry, Mr. Hawks, I cut you off.
Well, that brings up a couple of issues. One is, it's on a Saturday, mid-August, town beach is open for regular beach patrons. Are there gonna be parking spaces set aside for them? So that,
From what I've been told by Laura, it won't be open for the public. She's had events before where they closed down
Okay.
the park just for a group, and my understanding is that's the way. In fact, I specifically
Okay.
talked to her about that.
Right,
It will not be
she,
open
you
for
mean
public.
Laura?
Laura.
Margarina?
Yes.
okay, that answers one question. Second one is one Chief just raised, and I'm wearing my, pardon the expression, Lake Boone hat. We are always told, and tell everyone at the lake, that there is no powerboat access to Pine Bluffs. I mean, number one, it's usually because there are swimmers in that area, but part of it's roped off. I don't know whether you've gotten specific enough to say if the beach is closed for the day, that the rec department and the police are waiving that restriction. You're talking about people coming by boat, so I'm assuming there's been some discussion about that.
There's not been any discussion, Mr. Hawks. We'll have to address that.
Just speak up, please.
Sorry.
Mike.
That,
We've got the AC.
that matter has not been brought up on the police department level, so we'll have to look into that and discuss it. I'll talk to the Recreation, Lake Boone Commission, and Mr. Conley.
But even so, even if you allow boats to pull up direct to the beach, there's only space for about 10 boats or something.
I mean, I don't envision that we'll open the entire beach for boats. We won't be just, pulling up. I suspect we'll keep the roped-in area because you'll have people swimming. And there's an area off to the right looking
So,
from the lake.
So part of the access is to use the beach for swimming as well.
Yes, I think we should keep the roped-in area off and just have a limited.
Then I guess
area with
I'd
boats
go
in
back to that issue and suggest that you don't allow boats in.
Well, I can envision allowing boats in, again, looking from the lake on the right side where there is pretty much access. It's not roped
Well,
off.
it's only about 2 boats. I think you're likely to get into some jockeying, and, I mean, Lee is gonna be out there, so maybe he can handle it. Maybe I'm being overly cautious.
But it may also be better to err on the side of current practice if they do not allow boats in there.
I mean, I suspect we could also anchor a few boats, and we've done this before. I've actually, my band has played on the beach, and we had people just anchored in their boats out just beyond the beach. They could anchor there, and
Swim in, that's right.
they could swim in, or they could take, you could put 12 people on a pontoon boat to drop people off, and then go out and anchor the boat.
Okay, if you could do something like that, that would be preferable. Keep in mind, it's not quiet hours, and if you're rafting a couple of boats together, you're gonna have boat traffic up in that cove, and there's a lot of wash, and they can be smashing together.
Right.
So I would urge you to talk with Officer Heron, Recreation, work this out. I would prefer to keep boats off, as Tom's pointed out. We've trained people pretty well, don't take boats in there, so I'd rather stick to that if possible.
I mean, I understand your concern, but the downside to that is then we have many people from Lake Boone driving and taking up parking spots, which originally we had limited parking spots. We do have more now, but
Well, you've got 600 up at Honeypot, so I'm sure some of them wouldn't mind taking a shuttle bus. I would much prefer keep boats off of that beach.
Mr. Hawks is our expert on Lake Boone. You might want to take his
Oh, absolutely, I do. Is there any way we could use the beach?
advice to heart.
Could we use the small beach next to the main
We try to
beach?
keep people off of that too, because there's rope swings and everything else on Dog Beach. I think the chief was very familiar with them.
No, the rope swings have been cut down by now.
And, yes, but I think we're getting it to a point where, I'll talk to you some more about this later.
Okay, yeah,
all right?
we'll figure out
Wait for the
something.
table. Okay, I think we can do that.
Thank you.
I do have,
Please,
Chairman,
continue.
on, once we get to the liquor license, which is really the only thing we,
Yes, I
these are
understand.
suggestions.
I understand.
The license is for all pour license for the day, right? It's for beer, wine, and liquor.
That's what I read. Is that
That
correct?
was my request.
That's what the license before us is. You're not required by ABCC to have, I don't know what the acronym stands for. TIPS, anybody know what it stands for? It's trained pourers that control, it has the benefit of controlling people. You want to make money by selling drinks, but I think we all have a public safety concern, where, especially where several hundred people are going to be drinking for some period of time and then getting in their cars and driving home. Or boats. We don't even want people driving boats that have had too much imbibing. I'm concerned about the control. Who will be doing the serving of the alcohol?
Again, the vendors will have bartenders there, and they will be safe serve certified. And I believe that.
Is that
I expect that they would, if they're regular bartenders, they're probably also tip certified. I would
I
imagine.
actually don't know the difference, but in our agreement with these vendors, we listed safe serve as a requirement. So I guess I have to look into whether there's a difference between.
safe serve, in your terms, meaning what, sir?
It's
Sam?
actually a restaurant designation for people.
It's very similar.
Could
to
you
the
please
con-
state your name and address for the record?
Sorry. Samantha James, 81 Barton Road. Tip certification and safe serve are both different names for a very similar certification that shows that you've learned how to do the proper pour of an ounce and a quarter for a mixed drink, and then depending on the beverage type, how many beverages per hour per person you're able to consume to stay within a legal limit.
That answer your question, Mr. Hodgson?
I guess so. As long
Chief,
as,
do you know of any substantive difference between the two? There you go.
but I'm just thinking the number of servers and the number of people drinking. If I were doing it, it'd be very hard for me to, if you have 400 people that are coming and buying drinks at various times, to keep track of one person that might have had too many. Are there going to be different stations?
Yes. There will be several breweries there, so each brewery will have its own station. There'll be one area.
That complicates it even further then, because somebody can go to one station and then to another station and then to
Well,
another
they'll
station.
be in the pavilion together.
Okay.
The,
Do you have any, how do you suggest that?
I don't suggest it. I'm just,
Yes, that's a fact.
but what I'm getting at, this is the first, to my knowledge, large-scale one-day liquor license for sale. We've had others that we always argue about, do we need it for private parties?
I'm just asking, are you leading to something or just
I just
stating
want
the fact?
assurance that, to the extent humanly possible, that precaution is taken to keep people from overindulging, especially since they're gonna be getting behind the wheel of a car. I think the chief would be supportive of that. I don't know how to do it, but that's what I want to stress.
Courtney Frasha, do you have some thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I once was a waitress for a period of time. The training that I took included assessing the condition of the person I was serving. And part of the job of the server, in this case the bartender, is to decide, taking full responsibility on themselves by making the decision, whether the person they're serving is capable of handling doing another activity. So the training that you're talking about includes that personal responsibility of the bartender serving that individual.
The point that there is
And
shared
also the
responsibility.
establishment, typically the establishment.
Do you mind if I go back to,
Suggestion, Carol Sorrell. Wondering if they could purchase a punch card, if there's a certain limit of drinks that one could do pre-determined would be okay, and then every time they get a drink, they have to get it punched. So someone, regardless of if he's going here, or there, or here, he's got the punch card, and whoever serving can see, is it 1, is it 5? I don't know if that would work.
The only problem with that is you're on the honor system. I'm sure 90% of the people will be fine and respectful to that. If we do it, we could easily just share cards.
pick them off the ground? Does our finance committee chairman have any
As a
suggestions
private
or thoughts?
citizen or whatever, 53 Adams Drive, Chaco. I mean, all these vendors that are serving drinks run breweries,
Yes.
so they're probably pretty experienced
That's
in
what they
serving
do.
drinks. And they probably have significant liability to not let somebody, so I just thought I'd bring that up.
Last question then would be, it's all reassuring. Is there any issue of town liability? Do we have any protection?
There's always liability.
But-
So the answer is yes. Is it unreasonable and manageable? I don't believe so, given the nature of it, and
Okay.
we've asked that they secure their own liability for a single event, which they're doing.
Liability insurance.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
And the liability insurance will cover liquor vending?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's spelled out on the insurance binder.
And thanks to our administrative assistants, you're also going to give us a hold harmless agreement as well.
Yep, we'll have all those,
And, that's managing the risk, but Mr. Hawk's concern goes, of course, beyond that, to keep the people in Stow safe when people get in their cars. That's why we've made these suggestions and questions. Selectman Clark.
Let me just conclude by saying, this was by no means trying to throw sand in your gears. I fully supportive and I've donated myself to this, and I wish you all the best. And there was no amount of funds that can be raised that is too much for this cause.
No, I welcome your
So,
suggestions because
I just from process, I thank you for indulging me, and I feel much more reassured than when I started. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say one thing, that I've seen at many concerts and sporting events is the possibility that may be limited to somebody only buying 2 drinks at a time, so that they're not wandering off and handing them off now. And that may be something that the bartenders or the vendors themselves may already be planning, but it may also make Mr. Hawks feel a little bit better.
That's a good idea.
You think you could follow up with that, Mr. Chief? Thank you. And again, I want to echo what my colleague, Mr. Hawk, said. We're not trying to impede your notable and laudable efforts. We want to just explain to you, this is a little outside our wheelhouse. We don't do this. In fact, this is the first time I've ever seen it, this kind of an event. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means that we have to develop a certain set of levels of comfortability with what you're doing here. And again, we appreciate your working with us. We're not trying to throw arbitrary hurdles in front of you, but these are things that we want to make sure that we're doing and that you're doing in order to keep not only the people at this event safe, but everyone in town safe.
Jennifer Burks, 109 Barton. Our primary concern is safety because it is also a family event. And these are going to be kids that probably know Ari, and other families. So that is our primary concern. And also, as part of the vendor agreements, we are asking the alcohol suppliers to have Safe Serve certified servers, and also that they carry their own insurance too. So we're looking into that as well. So we want to make sure we have all of our, exposure covered. So we want it to be a fun atmosphere. We don't want people getting crazy and going overboard, because it is a family event. There are kids there too.
It's on the lake, you don't want them going overboard.
No. No.
At that point, I think I will take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is a two-part motion. I move to approve the use of Pine Bluffs Recreation Area for a benefit event for R.E. Danger Schultz and his family on Saturday, August 19, 2017, between noon and 7 p.m. Further, I move to approve and sign a special one-day liquor license for William P. Conley and the Greg Hill Foundation for an R.E. Danger Schultz benefit to be held at Pine Bluff Recreation Area Saturday, August 19, 2017, between noon and 7 p.m.
Second.
Okay. I would ask the mover and the seconder, some of the things that we discussed, do you want to include them as an amendment to the motion, or are you comfortable that Mr. Conley and the Chief of Police will work collaboratively and cooperatively?
I'm convinced that they will.
I'm satisfied with that as well.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. So did you ask for wine, beer, and liquor?
Yes.
Because this form says sale of wines and malt beverages only. Is there- and-
Good catch.
And,
The first one with the mid juleps, I think we wrote in.
oh, so can we
Yeah.
write in?
Yeah.
What do you recommend we write into this?
I would, you should specify by just adding it on the license itself.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Add in what?
Add all, I would say all liquor. If you've got, do they not produce the ones that used to show?
These are standard forms.
Okay, so then simply write to include.
Wine, malt beverages,
No, I think if you
cross
cross
out only, and
license.
all liquor.
So, Ms.
Nitpicking,
Hageman
but-
Clark, was that something that you saw in the motion or in the actual application?
No, it's actually on
It's on the
the
license.
I
license.
think
It's on the
The
license.
license.
so if we just write it on the license.
That's what we
I
decided.
see, I see.
So, yes,
I didn't see the license, so thank you very much.
Thank you for catching
Great
that.
catch.
and all liquor.
And liquor.
And liquor. I'm not sure I spell that right. I have trouble with liquor.
You can tell we're not in this business very much.
Neither am I.
Oh, okay, sign it. Have we taken the vote yet, Mr. Chair?
No, we haven't.
Would you
But
like to call it?
I just wanted to, there was some talking, I wanted to make sure that we were all together. Everyone, anything you'd like to add, Mr. Town Administrator? All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Don't go until we sign it, until we amend it too. And thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming, who came here. And thank you, Chief, for staying, and thank you for continuing to
Good
work.
luck with it.
These in case you need them.
Thanks, Carly.
We'll have to make copies of this and pick it up tomorrow or the next day.
I should pick it up. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hope to see you there.
Keep an eye on me. I might be one of the ones that.
Yeah, don't let him have
I'll be in a disguise. So.
He has the furthest to drive afterwards. That's
I can do that with my eyes closed.
And now, does everybody sign that?
I did.
Great, then we're all together. Now, that brings us to a joint boards meeting. Would you like to step up? Mr. Eckel and Ms. North, both on the Finance Committee.
Can I set this up for you though?
I would love for you to set this up. Thank you.
So what appears on your agenda is a joint boards, because it's a joint appointment. Julianne, in this case, who's the only candidate. The Finance Committee has previously voted to appoint Julianne. The chair, I said, if you came here to represent that, because they didn't have it on their, were you meeting tonight?
No.
No, so they weren't even meeting, so they didn't, and we're unaware for whatever reason that they had to be here as a full board, but that was presuming it was going to be a vote of both boards this evening. They've already voted, and he's here to represent that they did so, and if it's unanimous, I assume that's what it is to say so that their vote is in, and so now that you could vote, and it would still affect the same outcome.
I didn't think it was a joint board's hearing, but yes, joint board's meeting. I understand the distinction. Thank you, Mr. Town Administrator. Thank you, Ms. Moore, for stepping forward. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
I had some conversation with your new chairman, and by the way, this is our first meeting with our new chairman, Finance Committee, succeeding. You have big shoes to fill.
Yes, I know.
How long was Peter chair?
You know?
7
as long
years,
as
I think he said.
How many? As long as I've been on the board, which
I think he
is
said 7 years last night.
We should give him a certificate.
He's sticking around.
We convinced him to stay.
He's gonna stick around. He's gonna stick around. He's gonna be a backbencher for a while. But in conversation at the town meeting last night with Mr. Eckel, he mentioned a little bit about your background, but why you're interested in this particular area? Would you care to expand on that a little bit?
I'm mostly interested, well, I have an audit background, and I saw that the audit this year was a little bit complicated, and looking into it, I thought we could be a little more proactive. And there were some recommendations from the auditors that I felt they could help follow up on quarterly.
This is the forensic audit you're
Yeah.
referring to?
So, follow up on some of the issues they raised, like looking at quarterly actual to budget reports, things that I'm familiar with. And I thought I could add some value there. And I understood the guy that was my predecessor there was sort of just doing it out of default because...
Yeah, we're thankful that it was Henry Hagobian was
He served
the representative.
a number of years.
Yeah, for a number of years. So thank you to him for his service. But one of the expertise we were lacking on the committee was really understanding the budget from the schools, and so we're in detail. And so it's been great that Mark has been able to come and inform us periodically, but to have it right on the committee. You know, it's 70% of our operating budget, right, comes from the schools, so.
He touched it. You want to file a complaint?
Absolutely not.
Because I don't want the job of having to investigate.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Hawks.
As I've been privileged at times and burdened at times, perhaps, to be Selectmen Liaison to the Neshoba District.
And a fine one.
And sitting on the sidelines as a lot of the changes were brought forth in the last couple of years. And I think that the current administration and school committee are way ahead of where they were when everything was dumped in their lap. A lot of changes that they inherited. So I certainly encourage someone from the town side to become more involved in that. Because there has been, I think, kind of an us versus them between the financial people at the school and here. As a matter of fact, that's why I approached Peter last night on a slightly different avenue, and it was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, I don't know if you were here, that the district has also posted the High School Facility Advisory Committee. And some little bird whispered in my mind, in my ear, that somebody in this room might even be interested in serving in that. I don't think it would be any conflict. Because the issue of whether or not the school committee proceeds with filing an SOI this current year, I think would be greatly aided by somebody with direct ties to municipal and financial spectrum. But that's away from the subject, but it's a sales pitch.
For you? I'm going to follow the thing. Ms. Hageman-Clark, Mr.
No
Ryan,
questions.
any thoughts or questions?
No.
Mr. Ryan?
I'm very happy to see you stepping forward, and I don't know if you know some of the history of why this position even exists. It's because of irregularities that were discovered years ago, and this was actually a requirement of the state at the time that we have an audit committee, because there were concerns that
that it not happen again. I think it was just a couple of years ago that we finished paying off the $1 million or $2 million that
Deficit bond.
the deficit bond that we had, and that wasn't the first time that something like that happened. So it's
It's the third time in my career. So,
In Stow?
in the show.
the job
At the show?
the regional
Wow.
district. Yep. And so the Finance Advisory Board, which DOR had set up, and I was the municipal representative and liaison to the school district when that takeover occurred. And I guess I was underwhelmed with the acumen that was being applied about it. And in any event, I concur with Selectmen Hawks about the fact, and I think we all agree, that there's been a sea change in the last couple of years. And it's begun with the fact that in my opinion, the composition of the school committee has changed because they in the end have the ultimate authority. It hasn't always been consistently exercised over the years. But they've begun to exercise the authority they possess because of that change, and I also believe, though it's limited exposure I have to the new administration, that also has improved some. And so now's an opportunity to get in while the inertia is carrying us in the right direction for, due diligence, professionalism, and the rest of it. There'll be some change over the personnel and members of the school committee. Don't know how long that will last, so I'd like to take advantage. And one last plug, I'd like to support what you said. If you were looking at the person you were referring to, who said this anonymously, someone on the finance committee might be interested. This is the next large expenditure, huge, that will affect us for decades, all three towns. So if you had an interest in getting on that committee and you were fortunate to be put on it, it would be a momentous opportunity for the towns to have people who take a look at the numbers and the rest of it while they're going forward with a large investment.
And just a reminder, statements of interest in serving must be received by August 16th.
And that's to whom?
To Alita Masterson, Superintendent's Office, on the show.
Okay, Mr. Ryan, were you finished?
Yep, I just wanted to bring that up so that you knew what you might be getting into, and, the last issue was actually found by poring over, about a 4-inch thick budget, line item by line item. And, so as Mr. Wrigley said, things have changed, and hopefully they'll be forthcoming and providing the information, that if you're going to dig into it. So, it's, thank you very much for stepping forward.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to add, first of all, thank you again for stepping forward. The interesting thing here is there was the forensic audit that was commissioned by the current iteration of the school committee. And it does betoken, as our town administrator said, a willingness to look at some of the practices of the superintendent's office and the school committee. You will be an audit advisory committee member to the standard auditor who's been doing the yearly audits. But I hope that you will, as some of my members have suggested, or some of my colleagues have suggested, take some of the lessons learned from that forensic audit and make sure that the official auditor, what's the name again, Powers and...
That's who they were, yeah.
Pardon?
I'm not sure the name, but Powers sounds familiar.
Yeah, Powers.
He wrote Powers and Sullivan, is
Yes.
that the one?
It was Powers, yeah. If they, that they also take to heart the lessons of the forensic audit, and they start to ask some of the questions that could have been asked by that audit firm for many years. Not to cast any blame, but it's a chance, as everyone here has said, to open up a new line of sight on the whole budget process. Not so much the financials, but the budget process, which is what the forensic audit focused on. I'm sorry if I spoke too long. Any thoughts or comments? If not,
I was just going to say, as a finance committee member, she may be interested in the budget process, but I think, on this audit committee, it's gonna be more to make sure that what they put in there is correct and looks good. You know, makes sense. No worrying about, you know, making sure that, I suppose, budget line items were respected or at least done properly, but not necessarily setting the budget. You know, you're just gonna be looking to make sure that it's correct. Versus, you know, trying to get involved in the budget process.
No, of course, but what I brought out, and I guess superficially and unclearly, is the forensic audit looked into some of the budgeting process, and that was their main concern. Not that you would get involved in the budgeting process, but some of the checks, some of the balances that the forensic audit suggested come out of their work that be imposed during the budgeting process is something that Powers and Sullivan also look at. But you've probably heard enough, 4 different versions of what you should be doing. I'm sure you'll do the right job no matter what.
Are you still interested after all that?
Yeah. She used to audit the New York lottery, so I think.
New York State Lottery?
Yeah, so I think she can handle the.
Did you ever win it?
Did I?
I think we're ready for a
I get to
motion.
watch
Take a motion.
Off the ball.
Mr. Chairman, as a joint appointment with the Finance Committee, I move to appoint Julianne North as Stowe representative to the Neshoba Regional School District Audit Advisory Committee to serve a 1-year term ending June 30, 2018.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much for serving.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving as chair.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good luck.
And Ms. Giroux, I'm sorry for the delay, but we're ready now for, oh no, that's further down. Stow Cultural Council. Thank you, sorry.
Sorry.
I thought we were ready for you.
Got it.
I thought we were ready for
We
you.
know each other.
Yes, post it everywhere.
You stole.
You want it?
I did.
You can have mine.
All right. Don't worry.
Let's get down to this. That's Mary Brad Vince.
Yes. No stranger to any of this.
Would you like to step up? Introduce yourself?
Hi. I think I know many of you. Hi, Tom and Brian and Bill and I from way back. I was on many of those school committee, hi, Engelbert and Maureen.
Have a seat. I've got to tell you, my colleagues are not going to be impressed that you were chair of the school committee too much, based on
Oh,
their
it was a long time
experience
ago. It
based
has
upon their
nothing to
experience
do with
me.
the current audits, trust me.
But what would you like to tell us about your interest in the Cultural Council?
Well, my interest started actually kind of in a circuitous way. My husband, who is no longer working professionally and has retired as a sculptor and a farmer, and in his sculpting capacity runs a studio on our property. And we quietly had an open studio last year, and I started to look into the kinds of events that Maynard has for their artist community and Acton has for their artist community, and thought that there would be an opportunity. He's not the only artist here in Stowe that we started to do. I know that, having spoken to Rick for a very brief amount of time, that most of the efforts of the Cultural Commission thus far are allocating funds for lessons and things of that nature, and not bringing events into Stowe.
And that's Rick Lent.
Yes.
Chair. I'm sorry.
Rick Lent, I'm sorry. So he and I talked briefly and very casually about the opportunities to create events for artists that live in Stowe, for those artists, like Art in the Park, if we wanted to use the community space now. Open studio where there would, be a map of all the artists in Stowe who have studios. I'm sure that there are many more than we even know about, things of that nature. So that's what sparked my interest, actually. And I got to Rick by going through the Mass Cultural Council, because their whole program with creating cultural districts in towns has been something of interest and building of interest in the last year or so.
We have your letter of interest. We also have Len's approval of your appointment. My colleague-
Recommendation.
Recommendation.
I don't think he has to.
He's not elected. Oh, he doesn't?
He doesn't have to.
Approval of your
approve.
recommendation,
Okay.
or his recommendation. Mr. Ryan's semantic point is well taken. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Mr. Thompson?
Comment, I was privileged this past spring to go to, it was an event, like a mini Oscars presentation of the Cultural Council Awards. It was held in Maynard at the studio, at the Fine
Art
Arts.
space?
The Fine Arts
The Fine Arts.
Theater. And it showed the vibrancy of the arts community. And particularly, I think collaboration with another town like that is only can be to our benefit. So I encourage you to work with him, because Rick involved me in that. I ended up being presenter for one of the projects here in Stow. So, and I also would be remiss if I didn't read further down your letter. Indulge me, Mr. Chairman. She's also
As always.
expressed an interest
Oh, yeah.
potentially in getting involved in the Economic Development and Industrial Commission.
Yeah, that
which is-
meeting's next week.
Which is, I would encourage you to do that as well, because that's something, it took us 46 years, or something like that, the board, to appoint a commission. And we would like to see that,
Well,
some new.
that, for me, my whole background is in retail development, retail merchandising.
We'll save that speech for when you come back for that one, if that's the case. But thank you for stepping up on both.
Thank you. You're welcome.
My other colleagues have any questions or comments?
I think this sounds really exciting, that we can do studios and open parks.
That's what I'm hoping, and I like I said, I don't believe my husband's the only one with a studio in Stowe that's
I know
creating
there's others,
magnificent things.
There's
so.
several others
Right.
right here. There's one
There
there.
you go.
I could list a couple, but I think this is really very exciting. I think it would be wonderful.
Thanks for stepping
Sure.
forward.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Then I will take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, on the recommendation of the Stow Cultural Council, I move to appoint Mary Brad Mintz to the Stow Cultural Council to serve a 3-year term, effective immediately and expiring July 11, 2020.
It's a long time.
Second.
I know. I took a long recess in between, pause, in between.
When were you
public
chair of the
service.
school?
Oh, do you really want to know? Ooh, darn, now you're gonna make me think how old I am. I resigned in December of 1999 because I had taken a job that required overseas travel about 60% of the time. So.
Thank you for your
Not
service
since
then.
1999. So.
Thanks for getting
Well,
back.
you're
on
well
track.
rested.
Yeah, I'm well rested. I'm up for the job.
I will take a vote now, unless there are questions or comments further. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All- No
Thank you.
opposed? Thank you very much, and thank
Thank
you
you.
for stepping forward.
Good to be back, I think.
Looking forward to
No,
coming to
yeah.
your events.
You can reserve your judgment.
At least until 2020, right?
Now, Mr. Rowe, I beg your
That's okay. We have
patience and indulgence. I would only interpose the 1823 flag before you.
That's right, and I
And so-
absolutely would defer to that.
Could we take that, Ms. Zavisky?
I couldn't bring it, but I brought a picture.
Yeah, we've seen pictures. Very detailed.
Mine wasn't in color.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Marilyn Sikorsky from the Stowe Historical Society and Historical Commission. We have in a flag from 1823, which was refinished, well, not even refinished, it was salvaged and repaired and framed by the Historical Society in 1964. It's 58 inches by 48 inches high. It's quite beautiful. People don't see it because it's hanging in the children's section on the second floor of Randall Library. We're in the process of, we have a company, because of the library restoration, who will be packing up all the historical artifacts and putting them in storage at the end of July. We have this flag that is so large that it doesn't go into storage easily, and we're very concerned about its present location because of the HUV, the light
coming in on the silk flag. And we would like to move it temporarily to the Amos Whitney room downstairs on the back wall. And so the town has a historic area, hopefully in the next number of years, a historic building where we could hang it in town. The wall's perfect. We mentioned it, and it won't be in the light, the daylight, and then the town will begin to just start seeing it, because it's in the children's section. When you go up there, you see the children's, the little chairs, you see their little books and all their things, and you don't see what's on the wall. That used to be the library's reading room, reference room, and that's why it was put there, because in 1964 that was the only place in town where they could hang it. So we're asking that you would, your consideration to move it downstairs.
That's very exciting. The materials you provided were very informative as well as interesting. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments on the proposal from the Stowe Historical
I think it's a
Commission?
great idea. I didn't even know it existed, which is a shame.
I know, and that's the sad part of it. And you can, when you look at it, you can see the stress on the silk. And it needs, and maybe in the future we need more restoration on it. But we need to get it out of the sun, and we need it in a spot where more people in town can see it.
Does it have some kind of a, I prove ignorance as well, is there some kind of a plaque or something?
Yeah, there's, right now there's a foam, like a foam board, and a sign beside it.
Explains what the significance
yeah,
of
it needs a better sign, a nice sign.
Maybe somebody at the Cultural Council.
Get a grant.
The Historical Commission, we got everybody here. It's something, that would be very advantageous to have it.
Mr. Town Administrator, I take it that only the Board of Selectmen has the authority to place items of artistry or hangings in this town office building.
We reserve that prominent authority to this board only. Not the previous boards and not the future boards.
Well, then we perhaps should
Was there an
exercise that
amendment to the
august
charter?
authority.
I didn't notice.
You missed it.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request of the Historical Commission to relocate the 1823 Stowe Washington Guard Company silk flag from Randall Library to the Whitney Room of the Stowe Town Building in advance of Randall Library renovations scheduled to begin in August.
Second.
May I just amend that to say to relocate temporarily?
Yes, please.
And just insert the word temporarily before the
It could,
description.
3 years, but
Yes.
due to its size, we can't put it back. And it needs, we probably could find storage somewhere.
Oh, you
But it's so gorgeous.
you probably don't need authority to take it out of here, just to have it hung up. Do you take that second? You still
Yep,
want your
yep.
second?
Well, I was gonna say, they might not get it back. They might like it. But I'm sure that it's negotiable.
Well, confusingly, but we do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Great idea.
What I
Unanimous.
want to do is have the press do an article about it's moving over here, so people might want to come and see it. Have the color photo.
Yeah, right now, until it's taken down, we can't even get a photo of it, because all you see is the reflection of the windows. We've tried it at night, then you get the reflection. It is,
So maybe when you move,
or even when it's, when we have several people who take it down, then we could take a good picture.
We look forward to seeing it next time we come in.
Well, it should be sooner than later.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marilyn.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And I apologize, Mr. Rowe. Thank you very much. And please come forward and let me apologize in person. We greatly appreciate your straightening out this terms of the term situation on the Open Space Committee.
Absolutely. It was a surprise to us that we were perhaps one of two committees board appointed committees that do not have actual years associated with the terms. We're indefinite.
And I saw you were working with Maureen, our
Absolutely.
administrative assistant,
Absolutely.
to straighten this out, and we greatly appreciate
And
it.
what we
Thank you.
request is your approval 3-year terms. And we've already assigned the times for the various members on the committee. So beginning July 1 this year, expiring June 30, 2018, would be 2 of our members, and then 2 more members in 2019, and then an additional 3 members for 2020. So we've staggered the expirations, and they're 3 years. And so in doing that, in allowing it to happen, and we'll be in sync with your other committees in town.
And the Open Space Committee has voted on these?
The Open Space Committee has discussed and voted accordingly, yes, to
Thank
what
you.
we presented to your office as well.
Thank you.
Presented to you. Okay.
I think my colleague, Mr. Hawks, might have something.
I do. Strange coincidence. With the consent and agreement of current members of the Open Space Committee, I move to alter the length of term for the Open Space Committee members from indefinite to 3-year terms, implemented on a staggered schedule with the following assignments. Robert Gilbert and Eve Donahue to serve terms ending June 30, 2018. William Bill Maxfield and Vin Antle to serve terms ending June 30, 2019. Greg Jackson and Carol Serow to serve terms ending June 30, 2020. And a 7th position currently vacant for a term ending June 30, 2020.
Second. Any comments or questions? I thank you both for working this out, getting us all on track. Thank you for staying so late. Any more questions or comments? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you so much for staying.
Thanks for working it out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Richard, did you have anything to add? Nope.
And I was scared of
To
it.
keep the eyes on us, yeah.
And I'll say anything, no.
It's like Don Hawks on Tri-Town. He just sits right there and... that brings us to perhaps the most interesting item tonight, and that is discussion and vote for the formation of a complete streets committee. Is there anyone from planning department here?
I have to text him, call him down.
Yes, that's what this is.
We have a memo from Mr. Stedman. It just was on the desk when we came in today. It stated yesterday, but it's roughing out his idea of a complete streets working group. Have you had a chance to see this, Mr. Town Administrator?
I think I understand the subcommittee to the Board of Selectmen for complete streets. And I reviewed and marked up the memo this afternoon. I don't know if it got to the board, but
No.
in any event, it's, as we've been discussing for some period of time, the fact that I have a transportation study working group that's been organized since last fall. The task force, I think they call themselves, that has been in existence that Jesse's had, working on complete streets issues and other traffic and planning issues. And we just felt that, and I believe the board agrees, and I think there was some sense by the board that it was probably time.
Gee, what a coincidence.
Speak of the devil and he appears.
I was filling in messily for what
He was
this group.
in theater terms, he was vamping.
Anyway, about organizing the subcommittee for the working groups, that's how far
Yes.
I've got. So you can, do they have the latest memo that on
this
there?
one?
I think they should. Let me just
This
double
one?
check.
This one, it says,
Were you
July
asking
10th?
comments?
Nope. Thought you did. This is the, so why don't I do some, they're only very minor terms. If I could just read to you what we changed, and then I could show you this. I could make copies if it's easier, I'll do whatever.
Could you get it, could you circulate that later?
Yes, if you'd like, I can just explain.
In addition to
Yep.
explaining now.
So, okay, so, essentially, what this is basically saying is I tried to refer back to our complete streets policy passed in 2015. And in that policy, it explained that the complete streets working group at the time would be designated by the Board of Selectmen in theory. And so, now that we're a little further along in the process, we've identified a consultant. We've obtained $35,000 and change from the state to do the prioritization planning process. We want to really codify the group and be able to work with the consultant and also use that group and that committee as the body going forward that can continue to analyze and implement traffic, complete streets issues, but also townwide traffic issues going forward. And so, rather than try to do
To include
Yep.
what we just passed last night.
exactly, so
Yes.
inclusive of kind of the whole body of traffic issues. So, so really, what's different about this is when I wrote the first one, I was thinking more along, this would be a body that implemented complete streets prioritization plan objectives going forward. And I added the following sentence into the descriptions. In addition to the administration of the complete streets program, so,
Where are
yeah,
you?
I'm
at?
sorry. So this is the second paragraph.
Second sentence.
You don't have what he's added, he's saying this is what I.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry that you didn't get the right one here.
Wait,
Go ahead.
you gave copies that says revised on the top right.
Or has it been revised since then?
Can I see what you have? Sorry.
Yep.
That's
Okay,
page
so
one.
this revised
This
one
is
is
the revised one,
here.
yep.
Mine doesn't say revised.
I think it's somewhere buried on your desk.
Okay.
You're just-
So if you have the revised one, so
There it
really,
is. I got it.
okay. I'll still read it nonetheless. So basically, just saying that in addition to the complete streets objectives, the committee will provide ongoing support to townwide traffic safety objectives, including the coordination with consultants, because we know that coordination with consultants is going to happen throughout the processes, data gathering, analysis, and then the development and implementation of different policies and design solutions. And so I added that charge into the mission statement itself.
Is that consistent with your understanding, Mr. Town
Yes, it is, I
Administrator?
read it. It's good.
When we get ready for the motion, I'm going to ask you guys to make sure that you've looked over the motion to make sure it reflects the latest version.
Also, the motion is what you received in the memo?
No, we didn't receive,
Received that in
that
the
motion
packet.
was here today, and I just want to make sure that if we move this, and it's a king-hell-long motion, and I appreciate Mr. Hawk's willingness to state it, I just want to make sure that it is consistent with what you guys envision.
Jesse, you want to just read that?
Also, this entire thing is the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, look,
So the first two paragraphs are pretty bland, and so I just gave it to Jesse.
I'll listen to it as being written, if I pick anything up on it.
Can we simplify it?
Well, he's reading it right now. so
Why don't we
hold your
read it
horses.
and then keep your pens ready?
Let Jesse evaluate.
So I think if we were trying to make it match, I think our current understanding of how this committee, I would add in one more clause in there to that last sentence. And I really think, to be honest, if I can be honest, I really think the last paragraph is really the crucial point, which is kind of setting out the charge in the mission statement of the actual.
The others just have to do with nominees.
So, and that last piece is guiding the town's efforts in developing and implementing the traffic safety policies and interventions.
So we can't just change it to
He's changing it.
just
You could to
Hey,
reflect
the-
the mission statement.
mission statement.
We could reference by incorporation the revised memo dated July 10th, 2017.
Any motion that reads a page length, just reverse that.
I think the only thing that we might want to add in, though, is the part about designating the complete street members as special municipal employees.
Good point, Mr. Ryan.
So,
Now we've got the process, I think, a handle on it, and thank you, Secretary Clark. Are there any questions and comments about the substance for Mr. Stedman or the Town Administrator?
I have a question.
Certainly.
So at our town meeting last night, we heard some concerns about the.
We did?
Yeah.
What meeting were you at?
Point 25?
We didn't hear that.
Jeez. Go ahead.
So, the point being, there was some concern that this board would not properly execute its authority in managing reduced traffic miles per hour. So, in part, we would be guided by this Complete Streets Committee. Is that part of their mission statement?
Yes, and the updated one, it really refers to the whole suite of different traffic policies. It really comes back to, and I think this was kind of said last night, which is that, you know, the way the makeup is that it involves some at-large public participation, but also involves the folks that were hired by the town to really be the ones to help review big
So
decisions.
it brings in the professionalism that
It
there
does.
was some skepticism last
Yeah.
night. Okay.
Yes, and just to go one step further, it also understands that we're not gonna have all the answers either, and that we plan to work with consultants, and it's just part of the way
Correct. I
it
think this
works.
is what
Yeah.
the town probably needed to hear.
Likely, yeah, hindsight
So
is
I think
helpful,
it's
yeah.
great, that's all I have to say. So-
I think there was confusion that some people thought that if one person came in and said, I want the area in front of my street reduced, that it's gonna happen. And then I think other people thought that we were gonna change all the roads in Stow to 25 miles an
Let's
hour.
make 117.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so I think
we
that, I
got
think there
it.
was a lot of confusion over that. And one of the things that I think I would recommend being the first part of it is to come up with, you know, a policy for something along, you know, that's the lines of implementing that,
Yeah.
which I would imagine, you know, you'll do in due course.
Just to expound on what occurred last night and the comments that we all made and others that we listened to, is that from the beginning, and it will occur this way, that this is a process, there'll be an outline of a process that will be brought to you to begin with, how it will begin if someone's interested in, from a neighborhood or from any other area, to take a look at a certain thing. The process has already begun with regard to collecting data, analyzing data, and that will continue. And I was talking to the highway superintendent this morning, and Jess and I were speaking about one of the things that a couple of people voiced as a concern, and I think ultimately didn't vote for it, was the fear that they didn't know, they wanted to see a map, and that map for them would have delineated all the thickly settled areas in town so that they could see it. And though it didn't affect the vote last night substantively, because we have thickly settled areas delineated, and they've been delineated for some period of time.
We even have
and-
signs that say thickly
Yeah,
settled area,
that's right.
which I didn't see till today.
Yeah,
I went,
until you
"Oh,
pay
look at
attention
that."
to them, and
Yeah.
so, but anyway, the picture would have helped them, I think. So that process of, Valerie, the assistant town planner, is gonna be working, we're already going out and having, we're gonna identify every sign, posted speed sign for thickly settled, exactly where they are, and then we're gonna put it on a map, and you're gonna have a picture of it very soon, so the group can come to this, the subcommittee. But the whole process of evaluation is gonna start with identifying and defining what criteria, what process to follow, so that the board will know up front, you know, how we get from the beginning to you for a recommendation. And as I said last night, it'll be a subcommittee recommendation. The use of the word highway superintendent was just to put a point person there, but that, he'll be part of that committee, so it probably will be a subcommittee recommendation.
Well, and that's the whole thing, that, you know, I would imagine that it's not gonna end up being a process.
Streets
that,
Committee, subcommittee.
you know, 3 people come in and say, I want you to investigate this, and I want the speed limit reduced in front of my house, and expect to go before the Board of Selectmen the next meeting, and I think that's the expectation some people may have, and, you know, it was part of my angst with it, but I'm sure we're gonna do it right, so.
It's also important to note that there exists now in Mass DOT for rules and regs related to how they establish speed. 'Cause now you simply appeal, and we've done in the past, to go to Mass DOT to request an increase in a speed limit. So those standards and those guidelines, which are well established in what we receive and any other town receives now when they're trying to apply to the state, going to rely on the same publications and the same standards that are already established by Mass DOT. It's not like we're going to be creating a criteria that doesn't already exist.
I hear you, Mr. Town Administrator, and while I don't agree with the concerns that were expressed last night at a special town meeting, I understand them.
Yes, and I'm not saying I don't, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to elaborate
I-
again,
you-
that those are the things that we'll be doing that will reflect the professionalism that some doubted. So I'm saying it again, so others who may not have been at the meeting could hear it again, those are the things that were implicit in this that perhaps weren't made clear.
And how are we going to get this hallmark of professionalism out in front of the
It'll
towns
come
that they
back
know
to a
about.
town, to the selectmen, when we've outlined the process, which will identify and define that we're using Mass DOT standards, that we're in the process, for example, now of trying to figure out exactly what it is that the statute in the Mass, under frequently asked questions, which I just took a look at yesterday, I think Jesse did, because we're trying to ourselves make clear what isn't clear at all from Mass DOT on what roads will even be eligible for this opt-in.
What's a state highway, what is it?
Well, because if you look at the Mass DOT frequently asked questions, they use the term town-owned road. That's what they state there. It doesn't even say state-controlled, or it says town-owned, and at the same time, and we'll have to talk about this because I just looked at it today, there's conflicting language that would lead one not to logically be able to go from A to B, and so they've got to clean up some things themselves. But that happens with legislation, as you know. I mean, it's never perfected at that point. But I just think it's good for us to be opting in, and we can work all those things out before any decision to change a single speed limit.
I never doubted that. We just need to get across to the town that that we've got their concerns in mind, and that we are going to stamp professionalism all over the process.
No, and one of the things that I think we've got to make sure of too is, that we address it properly, which I'm sure we will, but that it doesn't become an all-consuming problem looking for a solution.
That's an interesting, that's a very good point.
Mr. Fletcher made some interesting comments about it, that, a lot of this had, been looked at years ago. I don't have a problem looking at it again, but, I just don't, I think some people are thinking that, we're gonna be spending all our time looking at speed limit signs and that stuff, and we've got lots more important things to do. It's a tool, as Mr. Wrigley had mentioned, it's a tool that we can use when appropriate, but we're not going to be going looking for problems to solve.
The data's going to drive this.
The data's
First thing
gonna
you got to do, we're all speculating now, whether it's Bruce or anybody else or me,
Right.
about what we think to be, whether there's speeds, this or that.
Sure.
There's now empirical evidence that you collect, and the equipment we bought is going to do that. So the first thing we'll do is begin to collect that data, analyze it, and the machines today do much more than they used to. 25 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to collect the same things, and then we'll go from where the data takes us.
Ms. Hageman Clark, anything?
I'm done.
Mr. Hawks, anything, or do you want to get right to the motion?
I've taken a crack at fine manner of the gentleman who usually sits in this chair, although without the ESQ after my name, of reducing this. Just let me see if I can state a shorter version of the motion. Mr. Chairman, on the
First of all,
recommend,
for our administrative assistant.
part of it is picking up the beginning, but anyway, on the recommendation of the planning department, I move to establish a complete streets committee being a subcommittee to the Board of Selectmen, composed of 7 members with membership and terms specified in the revised memo from the Planning Department dated July 10, 2017. Further, and then pick up the second paragraph. Further, I move to designate members of the Complete Streets Committee as special municipal employees pursuant to Mass General Laws 268A. Members must be registered voters of Stow and agree to comply with state ethics and open meeting law requirements. Period.
Hold on, I think we just blew it. You're picking up the same thing?
Yeah, the registered voter
The
part is
registered
itself with
voters.
the staff input. Not all members are registered voters in Stow on the staff committee. Similar to kind of on the space use
Yes.
committee. Yep.
So,
Just eliminate registered voters and stuff?
I would say that the at-large member should be a registered voter.
That was the intent.
members must be registered voters.
At-large
of Stow,
members.
Except at-large members?
The at-large member would need to be a registered voter of Stow. The remainder can be Stow town employees and staff.
May I make a suggestion?
Or residents.
Why don't, we're gonna have to appoint the members of this commission at some point.
Yes.
Why don't you come back when we have this
Clean
wordsmithed
up
up and
the
cleaned
motion.
up, and then we'll do kill two birds with one stone.
Would we be able to post notice of this committee before that?
You've got to have a motion to create sufficient enough to at least identify the number and a basic charge to put in the posting.
So you're 99.9% there, Don. So
All
just
right.
cross out, just, they should be staff members, residents, or town employees, the exception of the at-large, which is registered voter.
I think if you just identify the at-large as having to be
Right, just cross out the
resident
rest of that.
and not have to worry about the rest of it.
So if we just insert the words at-large before
Member
members.
needs to be, right,
Members need to be
the
registered.
member, or members, plural, if you're going to have more.
Members must be registered. Okay.
At-large member.
Maureen, are you following this?
I'll watch the video.
Is
No,
is
further.
there more than
further-
one at-large member?
Right now, there's not. There's one at-large member and town staff and/or serving members from each of the following departments, boards, or committees.
I would just make the distinction that it's the at-large member that we're requiring to be.
Yeah, and it can be at-large member or members in case we decide that there's going to be.
But all
more than one.
of the committee members need to agree with, comply with state ethics and open meeting law.
Yeah, I'm just talking about I think you wanted a registered voter, right? Or a resident, whatever it was that you wanted of. I think you only want that of the at-large member, because then we've got to.
Okay. Second paragraph stays as is, except insert the words in the second sentence. At-large, the at-large member must be a registered voter of Stow, and all members, and then reads as is, agree to comply.
Works for me. Second.
Thank you for your draftsmanship, Mr. Hawks, and
Did
Selectman
you get
Clark.
all
Thank
that?
you for keeping us on track.
You okay with it?
My one question is, this is a subcommittee of this board
Yes.
It really.
with other members?
Membership is not relevant. It's a subcommittee.
It has to be
You
part
can make
because it's-
anyone you want members to any, the reason the subcommittee is
Okay.
important is that to make it subject to the open meeting law, it has to be a subcommittee unless it's a full committee on its own, and it's not. This is really a working group being called a committee. So it's a subcommittee to some authorized, so it could be the planning board, in this case it's the selectmen, so.
The state law
you're a-
requires it be the selectmen, right? And that's why.
Well,
we have
because
that.
as part of this, it's that you're the approving authority on some of what we'll be doing.
So that's why we have to have this as
But
part
but
of
they're a
this.
subcommittee,
Because,
technically.
because we want to make sure that this is open meeting law in answer to a lot of the criticism we heard last
This
night
is-
about being done in secret.
This is a much more, in my opinion, from the way I know other towns are doing it, this is a much more transparent way than a lot of other towns have taken this. A lot of other towns have kept it strictly, and staff we proposed after everything we heard we'll open it up, it'll be public meeting, we'll have at-large members, so. So it is a little bit different, but I think that it's in response to a lot of.
And the fact is, by statute, if it's going to, any group that you appoint has to be a subcommittee, because it has to be
It has to be an
subject to your meeting.
extension of us.
I can create working groups, but you can't.
So, will we be able to staff the subcommittee with members of our own board?
You want to infect it with something.
Well, Jim
Staff
had expressed an
infection.
interest, that's
Come
all.
in- That's why, yes, thank you, Ms. Heckman Clark. I wasn't,
It's just that
Are
I
you
want
looking
to
for
be
more
home
trouble?
soon.
no, I was, Mr. Salvi, who's not here, expressed an interest.
So, I mean, the
Yeah,
way it's
We're not
listed.
appointing them today, so.
No, I know, but I mean, would he
You
be
can
able
if
to
you'd like
serve?
to, sure.
That's all I'm asking.
And he can also just sit in. We can all sit in.
It's
Maybe.
public meetings, we can all attend them.
Okay,
Okay, yeah.
let's move on. You ready to call the vote?
Yes, I am. Oh, unless there's any questions or comments, I am ready to call the vote. Thank you, Ms. Hagman Clark.
Sorry, I'm being nudged.
No, you're quite right. All in favor? Aye. Any
Sometimes some of
opposed?
us talk too much.
Nay, that's unanimous. Probably looking right at me.
No, no, no.
I'm only teasing.
No.
Maureen, if you have any questions
I was gonna
on
say
that,
take
you
the
can
rest of
work
the week
with the
off.
town
I
administrator,
guess
town
that's
administrator. Thank you.
Thanks,
What's
Jesse.
next?
I think we now have just the town administrators.
report.
I have, my report's already been, all the subject matter's been covered.
Any questions for the town administrator? Well, seeing none, I would suggest that you begin your
Bon voyage.
voyage westward.
I had an exciting trip on a weekend last time, by golly.
Really? What happened?
Well, I know all the hiding spots, but they keep changing them. I caught it just in time, though,
So you didn't get,
which is had at the speed I was going, but.
Well, via con Dios.
Hey, you're on.
Thank you.
good
Good
night.
night.
That brings us to liaison reports. Am I correct, Ms. Hagman Clark?
Hey, you want to hear what's going on with SMOT? I'm just joking.
Do we want to hear what Smart's reaction is to what happened last night?
I don't know what SMOT's reaction.
Well, that's not, that's from Ms. Hagman Clark's report.
That's my report.
Okay, Mr. Ryan, you've been helpful tonight with the
We've done all the police
stuff.
things, so we don't have to do anything.
I actually have a real quick one. The Chief Bosworth sent me a note today. There's, I think you guys had heard about the civilian police academies and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And last year, they ended up doing a youth police academy, and that just actually started this week. And they're doing it down at the fire department's new training room in
Fire station.
in the Pompo fire station. And basically, it's this is the third year that they've done it. They've got 24 young boys and girls who are currently in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And they're going to be doing crime investigations, crime scene investigations, canine demonstrations, CPR, first aid, self-defense, building searches, detective roles. They're going to be stopping motor vehicles, possibly.
Oh.
Or I should say motor vehicle stops. I guess they're probably not doing that, but team building activities and so on. And the chief wanted to thank, Chief Landry for letting him use it. And basically, just shows another how the town departments work together. Chief Bosworth asked if they could use it, and he said sure. And I found out about it when I was talking to Chief Landry. And the kids go out every morning, they put up the flags, so they're learning, just a lot of the military stuff. And Chief Bosworth really wanted me to make sure I mentioned Cassandra Ella, Officer Luke DeZago, and Administrative Assistant Darlene Treffery, who are actually leading this and putting in a lot of time on it. So if anybody would like a copy of this that explains it a little bit more, I'd be happy to forward it to them.
Oh, thank you, and I'll look for those young people stopping me on the way home. Mr. Hawks?
I'm under some constraint from the chair as we adjourned last week. I have
That wasn't
I
an
will pass
official-
on.
That was a precatory, not an official request.
What, purgatory?
Precatory.
Precatory,
I'll let
I
you
don't know
know
that
later
word.
if it's purgatory.
It means praying.
As a result of a meeting last week, the Lake Boone Commission reorganized Chris Craven as clerk for the calendar year, the fiscal year we are now in, and yours truly is the chair of that committee. We tried to have a meeting this week, and there was a 2-minute gap in posting that was missed in Hudson because they close at 4:30. We're going to meet this week again, but we will meet next week. Keep you posted.
Regardless of what I said, Mr. Hawks, please keep us informed.
Thank you.
I think the only thing I have to report on substantively is the Eversource petition, or the petition to be an intervener in the Eversource matter was allowed. Stowe was an intervener. Town council appeared at the scheduling conference on Friday. I listened in, but not much more. Let's see if we can't wrap this up before 9 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn then?
I hear a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I hear a second. All in favor? That's unanimous consent. Thank you very much. We finished